everybody, and welcome back to the Anita Bass podcast. My name is Anita Bass, your host, and this episode, like all of them, is proudly brought to you by Awake Tours, a company that's waiting for the borders to open and the world to go back to relative normality. Yeah. Anywho, so today I'm doing a podcast about fitness, which the reason why I'm doing this is just because when I started off on my fitness journey, when I was 21 or 22, I'm 28 now, I remember just being absolutely inundated with bullshit, and the fitness industry is the number one industry in my opinion where if they want your money, they just confuse you. When you want to go on the internet, there are so many people and programs and bullshit because people want you to think if you're so confused, the only way that you can get a result is because of them, and they're the ones who know, and they're the ones that you need to go to. Where in reality, it's really just exercise and calories in versus calories out. And yeah, that's about it. So today I'm going to talk to you about my competing history and what that was like for me to and through the Arnold Classic and my fitness journey, being a personal trainer and studying health and nutrition. And yeah. And I'm going to add some calculators in the end to help you understand, I guess, the most simplest calculator that you actually need to lose weight or to gain muscle. It's not that hard, but we'll explain it. Okay. Alrighty. So first up is my competing history. So overall, I guess, like my achievements, and I say this just to say that I know, I guess, what I'm talking about. I got number 1 in Victoria twice, number 3 in Western Australia, and then I went to the Arnold Classic and I competed, I guess, against Australia and Australians, and I got number 3 in Australia for bikini. So I competed in the IFBB, International Federation of Bodybuilding. There are quite a few of them. There are quite a few different divisions. You can confuse yourself looking into them, so I'm not going to mention them. But I did IFBB because that was the one that led into the Arnold Classic and then later to the Olympia. So my training, I guess, story, my origins, I had never been into a gym in my whole entire life, ever. And my brother started going to the gym around the time. I think I was 21. Let's just say I'm 21. Pretty sure I was 21. And I remember going in there and just not knowing and just being overwhelmed and just feeling like a fucking idiot in a gym. I'm like, why am I even here? I tried to do a shoulder press with 2 kilos and couldn't get 2 kilos over my head. And thinking back now, that's hilarious. But I remember then I generally could not at all. I had just been through the depressing part of my life, probably the first time I'd felt negative, depressive feelings, and I just needed something to help me just do life better. And at the time, I didn't really think it'd be the gym. I just went to the gym for my brother. It annoyed me that I sucked at that and couldn't get 2 kilos over my head. I looked at getting a coach to at least help me with the equipment. I went to one coach. I signed up with her. We did a couple of sessions. In hindsight, she was not good. I did not relate to her. She was more so maybe just for, I guess, older people who just wanted to do step-ups and shit, and I was paying her so much money. And granted, she's probably great at what she does for who she does, but it was not for me. So then I went about looking for another coach, which is where I found Zia Smetka, who was my coach then, who helped me compete and who I've actually gone back to now. She is a hard ass and a lord, and we've had many fights, but in a great way. But it's good because it's the only fucking person that I'll listen to. And I'm like, if I'm going to pay someone to train me, I'm going to pay that person to bust my ass and just fucking be a drill sergeant on me and not let me be easy. So I started competing because we had trained together for a little bit. I think it was like 6 months, and I then knew that there was a competition on the weekend, and she was like, oh, you should come see it. And I remember going to the competition and just thinking like, I could do that. And then in my head I was like, but you won't. And I was like, I could though. And it's like, but the only difference between them on stage and you sitting here saying you can is the fact that they're actually fucking doing it. So it's pretty easy for you to say you can do something and just say that from your seat, you know? Like, and I was like, fuck, I called my own bullshit, and I was asked her to coach me, which was the beginning of a love-hate relationship. On a side note, she fired me like 2 times. And the reason for that is just because I hate being told what to do. And I remember she was like, "Are you sticking to your diet?" I'm like, "Yes." And I was not. And you could tell because I just wasn't losing weight and I wasn't in line with what I should be. And then she's like, "You're lying." I'm like, "No, I'm not." And then she started her program to lose weight and cut down. And she was like, "If I lose more weight than you, then you're fucking lying because we are starting on the same day. And so we should be relatively even. And if not, you're not telling the truth." And then like, lo and behold, I wasn't telling the truth. And I was like, "I'm sorry, I just can't stick to my diet. It's so hard, blah, 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 blah." I remember one morning because she made a special time slot for me at 5 a.m. because that's the only time that I could train because I needed to work and shit. And then she was like, I was running and she was behind me and I was going up these steps carrying up this weight bag. She's like, "Come on." I was like, "Fuck off. Stop telling me what to do." She's like, "This is what you pay me to do. What the fuck do you want a personal trainer for which you're paying to tell you what to do if you don't like being told what to do?" I was like, "I don't know. I just hate it." And then she's like, "Do you want to go home?" I was like, "Yes." And then I left. And she's like, "I can't coach you. You say you want to compete, but I don't think you do." And also when I was getting fat, she's like, "I'm giving you all this information and you're not doing it properly. And I know that you're not. And so I can't coach you anymore because you don't want to do this competition thing." I was like, "Yeah, I do." But I was like, I'm leaving you." So that was funny. Fucking poor her. But yeah, so I ended up leaving that time. So I say she fired me twice. I came back and I begged and she took me back. In hindsight, it was only because I was competing from a place of, I guess, pain because I wanted to compete because to me I was so lost in my life. Whereas now if I did it, it would be a lot easier and I would breeze through it so much more. Like there it was hard. As I always talk about your why, I had no real legitimate why to want to compete. And that's why it was absolute fucking hell for me because it wasn't from like a place of purity and just wanting to do it. It was from a place of lack. So that's why I was such a fucking cunt of a client. So anyway, regardless, so I went to Melbourne to do my first comp. And the actual reason for that is because I was too scared to do my first comp in WA with like people who knew me watching. But I was open about that. She was like, "You're so silly. We're here to support you." I'm like, "No, I want to go there first." So anyway, I went to Victoria. My wonderful friend Jacinta picked me up and took me everywhere because I was absolutely clueless to how big Melbourne actually was. Hair, tanning, blah, blah, blah. That was before I moved to Melbourne. So I went on stage. It was the most petrifying, scary thing I have ever done in my whole entire existence on planet fucking Earth. Walking onto stage was the scariest thing ever. I walked out there and I kicked the stage and I like nearly tripped over. And it was just so daunting. And I remember just being in the room and looking at all the other girls and how much better they were than me and how much bigger their muscles were. I did the bikini division, so the smallest. Yeah, so I was just like, this is fucked. And as I was up there, I remember because you have to do a solo one and they called my name and it's just a big crowd of people and the lights are just blinding and you can't really see anything but the lights and then you can just see the judges' faces looking at you and they're supposed to not give you facial expressions. And I remember just like, and my 4 points of posing routine, which should normally take quite some time, I'm pretty sure I did in like 15 seconds. And then, yeah, but I ended up winning that one. That was my first one. I still do not know why I did. But yeah, so I got first place in that. And then when I went back to Western Australia the next 2 weeks, I got number 3 in Western Australia. That was at the Crown Convention Centre. That was so daunting because it was like a big ball gala. Like the one in Melbourne was at some auditorium with a few people, but this was a gala with tables and people had bought seats and meals and shit, and it was hector. And also, yeah, same as the first one, the most daunting thing ever. When they call you, I don't know, it literally feels like you're going to piss your pants. Like I actually thought I was going to piss my pants on stage in a little bikini. Like it's fucked. It's so scary for me. I don't know. It's the nerves and walking in front of like hundreds of people and people judging you for your body, but just a spotlight and the heat of it all. And then you're in high heels. It's just hectic. And then I ended up getting 3rd for that one. And then the Arnold Classic was, I think, the week after. And I wasn't really booked to do that, but I just thought like, fuck it, I'm in shape. I may as well go and do that. So I did the Arnold Classic. I went over there. To be honest, that wasn't really daunting for me because in my head, it's not something I had been looking to do. I just decided that week before that I was in shape enough and I may as well use it for something. So I just flew over there. Me and my bruv went together. He come to watch me. And then I'm getting third in Australia for that. That was awesome. Even some lady who had been at both shows, she was like, "You're so different and confident up there." I was like, I guess I was because I just didn't give a fuck, like, and I had nothing to lose and I just didn't think of it. It was just like a fun thing for me, whereas the other two were something that really meant so much that I had been training for so long. Like people, a comp prep leaning down says like 12 weeks or so, but I was so serious about it for like fucking, I don't even know, as long as I possibly could be, to the point like I didn't see people. I ate to a T, so it was absolutely everything for me. So I guess that's why the Arnold Classic I was so much more chill, because I just really didn't care. And then they called my name out for number 3 and I was like, oh my God, that is Hector. So that was my competing history. Next up, I did another show in Victoria. I think this was 6 months after, and I got number 1 again for Victoria. And then that's when I was living there. And then I was booked to do the Olympia. It was the first time that they brought the Olympia to Australia. And I ended up pulling out of it like 3 weeks before. Granted, I was just an idiot, but I really did just overwork myself. I went to a wedding and I drank at the wedding, and like, you're not supposed to drink or eat out of your diet and stuff. And I remember I drank few glasses of wine and I just felt like so bad for that and such like a fucking idiot, and like I had wasted everything. And so I went to the gym next morning and was doing like interval sprints, like 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off for like 40 minutes of just sprinting hard out. And I just remember in the middle of it, just something happened, like my chest popped or something popped in there, and it was like, and I just couldn't like breathe properly. It's like when you get the flu and your chest is all hard, or you're like all your skin's tingly and you just like cold shivers, like, and I got that instantly. And it was just because I had just overworked myself. I was eating like fuck all, because the diet to lean down is like such little calories. You should be like taking it really slow and stuff, and I was doing that. And I remember just being like, what am I doing? What on earth am I doing? I'm going to fucking kill myself over what? Because you win, like, you don't really win much unless you go to pro, and even then the top of the top only wins some. It's more so in sponsorships and endorsements and stuff. And so I was like, what am I doing? There is little return for what I'm doing. I'm making myself sick. I'm a fucking idiot. And then I had guilt for eating, and I was like, this is the most unhealthiest shit ever right now for me in my brain. So I'm just gonna stop. So I told my coach, I was like, I don't like training. I don't like doing this. I don't know why I've made myself sick. I don't know. I don't like this right now, and I don't like what I am at this point in time, and I'm stopping. And then she's like, okay. And then, yeah, I actually stopped training for a while after that. So that was my competing history, and that was dope. And then so after that, I went on and did my certs 3 and 4 in personal training, and then I also got an advanced certificate in nutrition just to back up what I knew, because I wanted to then be a personal trainer, until I realized that I travel too much and I can't really do that. I've worked at a few gyms, but to have like full personal training client base, I'm very ignorant to think that I could do that while traveling for 8 months of a year. I'm a fucking idiot. So, yeah, that was my brief history in that. So then I stopped training altogether. Oh yeah, here's a side thing, reverse dieting. When I first stopped, when you do stop, you're supposed to reverse diet, which is like slowly introducing foods back into your diet, because you've had such a strict regime of foods. You can't really just go from eating chicken breast and broccoli and then fucking go out and eat cake and KFC and chips and just expect your body to respond the way that it used to before you essentially starved it gradually over 6 months, right? So you have to reverse diet and slowly introduce foods back into your diet, and do that. Do that if you're planning on doing this. I did not. I thought I was awesome, and I thought that I was Superman, and I thought that because I was relatively skinny before, I'd be relatively skinny for my whole entire life, and that didn't apply for me. I think I put on 8 kilos in 3 weeks. I just puffed up because I went straight from competing. I went to America. I did the Coachella tour. I was eating American food. And then I went to Thailand eating Thailand food. And I just like puffed up. Oh, yeah. And then I got my breast implants. So then I was in surgery and then I was eating like the food that they bring to my room, like biscuits and stuff. And I couldn't actually move or train for like a few weeks after that, obviously. And I remember I got home after that and my mum was like, "You're fat." No, I'm not. I've always looked like this. And I was wearing this dress, which I always would wear. And it was not my body at all. My face was just a circle. And then I saw my coach and then she was like, "Bro, you look like yourself, but with all this extra shit on you. It's the weirdest thing." She's like, "I told you have to reverse diet and you said you didn't want to and you should have," because basically when I stopped competing, I'd like stopped having her as a coach as well because I just want nothing to do with it. But I'm an idiot. I really shouldn't have done that. And then, yeah, so that's my opinion. My thought to you is just reverse diet and do it properly, although it may suck. You can have meals here or there, obviously, but although maybe when you stop competing, you may want to go out and eat the stuff that you haven't been able to for a few months, literally reverse diet. If your calories are, say, 1,700, you can't just go to having 2,500. It's going to treat your body, not like your body, but the equivalent of you overeating tremendously because it's used to being on such a small scale. That obviously makes sense, yeah? Which makes sense now. I'm a fucking idiot though. So the positives that I found about competing, the main thing, I honestly feel like for me, and I'm not saying everyone go out and do a fitness comp because you'll find from my negatives it's a very unhealthy, healthy competition. The competing for me was probably the changing pivotal point of my life in my confidence. And I think that really did stem from the little promises that you keep to yourself. And I said that in my depression podcast about things that help you build confidence. And it's just the small little things. It's like, and it's trackable as well. It's not like I'll do my meditation and I'll feel better. Oh yeah, I remember that. I did feel better. It's like I will eat this and on this date, I will lose 500 grams if I stick to this for 2 weeks because we're slowly reducing my weight. Okay, I jump on the scales. I've lost 500 grams. Cool. So it's a physical and direct representation that what I'm putting in is what I'm getting out. And so it's like the little promises to yourself. Like I'll get up. I'll go to the gym. I'll have 2 liters of water. I'll do this training. When my coach says this, I'll do this. And I did that. And it's the first time in my life, I guess, I could actually track the benefits from the work that I had put in, and it was proven in a physical form and with actual numbers and shit. So to me, that built tremendous confidence in myself by doing things that I said I was going to do and then actually doing them, because that's where self-doubt comes in heaps, I think, when you say, "Oh, I'm going to do this," and you don't, or you've got this idea and you don't, or you're starting a New Year's resolution and you don't. You begin to lose faith in yourself and you begin to just be like, "Oh, I'm a fucking loser." And then you don't do because you think you're a fucking loser, and then in turn you haven't done, so you've proven to yourself that you're a fucking loser. Like you're not a fucking loser. But yeah, so that's what that does, is the small promises to yourself. Okay, I'm going to get up at 5 and train. Okay, I actually did. Awesome. So that proves to me I can actually do stuff that I say I'm going to do. Dope. All right. And then that can branch over into other parts of your life. Yeah. Like fitness is a great beacon. And also with fitness, it's like, you can't bullshit yourself. Like someone can look at you and you'll be like, "I go to the gym," and they can say, "Yeah, you do," or "No, you fucking don't." And not that health is always just a direct basis on your physical appearance, but you just can't bullshit yourself and you can't say you're something when you're really not in this regard. So that was really cool at keeping me accountable and just making sure that I was the person who I was trying to say that I was. So competing was dope for that. And also the confidence of being on stage. Not so much the actuality of being on stage, because you can win one comp and then not win the next one because the judge's preference is based on I don't know, they can look at you. Maybe they had a girlfriend with blonde hair. They don't like you, so they'll mark you down because you've got blonde hair. Or maybe they think the idea of a body should be this, where the judge sitting next to him thinks this. So it's not confidence in that way. It doesn't make you really feel better about your body in that way because there's other girls who are beautiful and different around you, and you can be at your very best and they can say you look like shit because it's not what they think they're looking for on that day. Whereas you can go to another state and the judges will think that as well. Like it's just, so it's not confidence through that. It's just more so confidence that I was the type of person to get up there and do it. And I remember when I was first like doing my posing practice and stuff, like I'm not very showy and I hate people like looking at me and I hate being like, oh, I'm fucking hot cunt. Like I hate stuff like that. And so I remember my coach was making me pose and you have to just really fakely smile and shit. And she was like, you're not going to do good if you keep doing that. Like you think you're better than this, but this is what you need to do to win. And I was like, but I hate it. Like this isn't me. And she's like, well, it's no one. Like no one really walks around doing this. Some people love it or they're more inclined. She's like, but it's what you have to do for this. So if you think you're better than it, you could have the best body, but you've just wasted all these fucking 6+ months of training if you think you're too good to do the little posy shit, which you need to do for the show. I was like, okay. So I remember being on going onto the stage for like the first time, and I always used to go backstage and like just listen to my music and try not to look around too much and just like get myself in the zone, whereas other people would be talking and like friends of each other. I'm like, no, I cannot. This is just me. And I remember just being like going on stage for the first time and just being like, fuck anyone who is not me at this point in time. And that's not my attitude to life, but that's what I was thinking. Just like, I have fucking worked so hard. I have given up absolutely everything. I've had no friends, no social outings, no nothing. I've been so sad through this whole process, which I shouldn't have been, but I was because I wasn't doing it for the right reasons. And so I was just like, I am not going to place just because there are people out here who can do the posy shit better than me. So I was like, fuck everyone who is not me. Let's go outside. And then so I just walked on stage with that mentality and I was like, fuck it, we'll give these people a show. And that's what I did. And even, my friend watching was like, that was hell funny. You had all that posy shit down and you're just smiling. I was like, yeah, I just thought like, get out of my own head. It's just not the time to think that I'm too good for something or that I shouldn't do it because I wouldn't do it. I'm like, fuck it, let's roll. So I think the confidence just kind of came through that, is just doing something that I was so scared of as well. Like I don't know. People ask if I'd compete again, and I feel like I would, only because I have the bikini that I didn't wear to the Olympia before I pulled out. Like I have it all fitted. It was a different color. I normally would wear red. Red was always my color. And then blue I bought for the Olympia and I didn't do it. People always ask if I'd do it again, and I feel like I would, but only once. But it'd have to be a time when I'm doing absolutely nothing else because it takes up that much of your life. I would do it again because it is so scary and it would push me to be petrified, which is something I haven't faced in a long time. And that is where confidence grew from, just pushing myself to do that. Like I look back and I'm like, whoa, I don't know what overtook my body in that point in time, but that was not me because that's scary as hell. So that's where the confidence came from. And yeah, just proving that you can. Just proving that you can do something that you set out to do. Like looking at my body, was it what it was before I competed? Like the first time I was just very, very, very skinny. Like I was tiny, but like very skinny. Like I could have looked anorexic just because I remember I just used to eat like fucking nothing. Not for any purpose, but I just never did. And then building muscle from that. And then when I got chubby, going back to that. So just proving to yourself that you can do something that you set out to do is awesome. But then again, I will now go into the negative, so I'm not saying it's a positive thing, but you can take this into other parts of your life, and it does flow over to other parts of your life. So saying you're going to do things that you do, and I do it now. I'm going to get up. I'm going to write this much down of a book, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to study this, or I'm going to choose to eat this because it's better for my mental health instead of this. So these little promises you can put in your normal life and not necessarily just have to be in a competing way, because competing is not for everyone. So the negatives about competing, for me personally, some people may do this and think it was the greatest thing ever, but for me personally, the negatives about competing were the actual physical effects on your body. So as I said, I did a reverse diet, and it actually takes about 2 years to get back to normal. Well, it did for me and it did for my coach as well. So the physical effects on my body, I now had to train harder to get back to where I could before, and I had to be so much more strict with my diet, whereas before maybe I didn't have to be to get to where I wanted to get, because my body had just been like played around with so much because it had gotten to such a lean state, and then it was used to being such a lean state that it was a lot more easier to do in the first place. But then once it's used to that baseline, to get back there, it's harder because you've played around with it too much. And then my brain was probably the most fucked thing from the point of my emotions. I don't know, no science or nothing, but I remember when I used to look into it, it was because I wasn't getting enough fats to regulate my brain health, to control emotions, or even enough food. So I knew that if I wasn't in bed by like 8 o'clock, I would cry, and I needed to train myself that I wasn't crying for the reason I was crying. I was just crying because I needed to go to sleep because I couldn't be awake at that time. Like my poor mother, I was living with her at the time, and we're looking after my granddad, who was like, he would forget a lot of shit and then he'd get really angry. And I remember once he was telling me to do something and couldn't understand and was saying, oh, you're stupid and stuff. And I just started bawling my eyes out and just crying on the floor. And I was like, stop it. And then I was to my mum and I was like, I can't, blah, blah, blah. And she was kind of baffled-ish. And then looking back, and I was like, Mum, I'm so sorry. That wasn't really much of an issue at all. That did not deserve that reaction, but it was about 10:30 at night and I should have been in bed because the food isn't feeding my brain. So that's something to keep in mind, because obviously when you train to build muscle, you add calories to build muscle, blah, blah, blah. And then when you're getting lean, you're slowly reducing your calories over a controlled and preferably long period of time. If you have a coach who tries to make you do it super short, that's not ideal. It's not good for you at all. It's not good for your brain, and also you will waste a lot of muscle in doing so. So yeah, so slowly, gradually decreasing your food to get lean, and then in your last week before competing, I don't know if everyone does this, that's what I did though, like you water load or watershed. I think it's water load. I don't know. It's been a while. And so that means you trick your body to make you look more lean and sucked up. So the first, I would drink like 7 liters of water. The next day I would drink 5 liters of water. The next day I would drink 3 liters of water. And then on comp day, I would drink the day before I would drink 500 mils. And then on comp day, I would drink nothing. And so it will confuse your body into thinking what amount of water it's getting. And then on the actual comp day, you're completely sucked up, so you look really gaunt and you can just pretty much like see everything. But then you only eat carbs, so that puffs out your muscles. So you've just sucked up everything. You've sucked yourself dry by doing that water loading over the whole week, and then you sucked and you look depleted, but then you eat carbs, so it's like poof. Yeah. So that's what happens. So during that, my brain was fucked, and people, like I remember I was getting my tan and the lady was like, we had so many boys faint doing their tan, like everyone's in the same position. You just like, duh. Like I remember just speaking to someone mid-conversation and I was like, I can't continue this conversation, and I'm not being rude, but I just can't think because I'm competing in 2 days and I got to go. And they're like, okay. But that would happen often. Like I just couldn't really be around anything. It was like fatigue, tired, but just, I don't know, someone could have punched me in the head and I would have lost my brains. Like it's just pure exhaustion on your body, food, water, and yeah. So that obviously isn't good, but it's necessary if you want to succeed. And yeah, so that emotionalness was a little bit shit and a negative for sure. And then your body image after, people always asking, oh, when are you going to compete again, blah, 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 or comparing you to that as well. In your mind, obviously, as a human, you want to be the very best human that you can in every single aspect of your life. Whether you admit it or not, that would be ideal. So when you see yourself at comp lean level, that to you is the best that you've ever seen your body. Looking back now, you may look a bit gaunt and weird and shit, but it's like an extreme, oh my fucking God, how did I do that? That's dope as hell. I didn't know I could look like the people in the magazines, the fitness magazines. And it's just like, wow, so this is my elite human, even though it's not healthy to be there and you actually can't be there. But in your head, sometimes you would always be reaching for that. And even if you look good to other people, you'd be like, yeah, but that's not my best. So you're looking at yourself in the mirror and just always wanting to get back to that comp weight, which is impossible, which could bring me to my next thing. It is literally impossible. And so people you see on Instagram or people who you see on fucking magazines and stuff don't look like what they do in real life always, because you physically can't. Like as I just said, all the water loading, all the decrease in calories, that's when people do photo shoots on the day of that. And then you put on a tan, and I can tell you a tan gives you 50% more visibility of what's on you than now. Like I could put on the tan now and I could look almost ready to go on stage, kind of not in good condition. But yeah, the tan is incredible because it's so dark and it brings out every single fine line in you. So you're looking at people's photos on Instagram or their videos, and you're just like, oh my God, I wish I could look like them. I wish, why is mine not working? But they've done that. Most people diet for a photo shoot for 12 weeks. And then if they're so inclined, they'll do the water loading. And then they wake up, they put on the tan, and then they do the photo shoot. And then they have 20 photos in different clothes, and they're uploading them with their fucking recipes and all this stuff and their programs. And you're like, I will never look like them. And you won't, because they won't, unless it's that exact day that they did the photo shoot, and it's impossible in any other way, right? So you can't compare yourself to those people as well, because it's lies. And if it's a good PT or so, they'll tell you, but they don't. They don't. But yeah, like all the like Instagram-y things, that's what I'm talking. People sell their programs and you're like, oh, I want to look like them. And then you're so like depleted in yourself because you don't, like you actually really quite can't, because they can't unless it's a photo shoot day. So yeah, so I guess that was like, yeah, a negative as well, like always trying to get back to that weight and thinking. And then people also asking like, oh, you're going to compete again, blah, blah, blah. And then they've seen you at your comp best and they like encourage you and say, oh, that's awesome. And then when they see you the next time, they're like, oh, I remember someone looked me up and down. They're like, oh, are you competing again? Because like I had eaten. Like it's the second you eat food and go back to normal, like your body fat obviously comes back. It has to. It's fucking human nature. If not, you'd be dead. You will die. You can't just have 0% body fat. You'd hate yourself as well. Like, yeah, so I remember someone was like, are you competing again? Like, and I remember PT at a gym, she's like, you don't look like you'd be ready to compete. I'm like, I've eaten and I finished competing. But like to hear people say stuff like that, obviously you're like, oh fuck, even they're realizing, but you actually can't get back to that. But yeah, having people bring it up all the time is really like, cool. But yeah, get over that. And with age, whatever, I wouldn't give a fuck now. So money is also a negative about competing. And I'm just highlighting these negatives because fitness comp is like a popular thing now, but you need to understand that there's some shit things that go along with it. It's actually the most unhealthy health comp ever. That's what it is. Nothing healthy about it. Money is very, very expensive. Your bikini, like $250 to $500. Your federation, $150. Every single stage thing you're on is $150. Your coach, $300 a week. You got to eat all the right stuff, the right proper meat, high quality oils. That's hundreds of dollars. Your makeup, your hair, you know. Like I think it's around $5,000 a show or a little bit less. Like, and then once competing over in other states, you got your airfares and shit. So it's very expensive, and for no reward, as I said, the people who make money are the pros. So to be a pro, there'll be like a competition, like a major competition, say the Arnold Classic, and then there'll be like bikini, different divisions, open, 40 plus, blah, blah, blah. And so every single women in the bikini division, winners, so say there's like bikini open, and then there's like 4 different bikini opens. There'll be like one winner from each. And then there'll be bikini masters over 40. And then there'll be one winner or so. And then so all of them, one person winners, will go on stage and compete against each other, the winners. And then the winner of the winners will be rewarded their pro card. And then the pro card makes them only be able to compete in the professional league. And there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of IFBB. I honestly pros, I don't really know too much about it, but in my thoughts, I'm quite sure the main thing that you then aim for is the IFBB Pro Arnold Classic over in America. And so then there's like a few people who make it to that. And then the number one winner from that in America is the person who gets the prize money. So when people are like, oh, you win money, like thinking that when I do a WA comp, I won some money, but no. And the prize money isn't really that fucking high at all. So they make money from like endorsements and shit like that. So definitely don't go into competing if you think at state level you're going to be making bank. No. And then also time and no friends and no life is something that comes from this. I really could have done it a bit easier, but I was so strict and so harsh because I thought that if I wasn't being my very best, there would be someone out there being their very best. And the only reason I would lose is because I wasn't my very best at all times. Like hardcore, all or nothing forever. But the problem with that is that I did it over, how many years did I do it over? A year and a half maybe. And so I was just in that state all the time. So then you start getting angry at people when they invite you out. And, oh, you want to come to this? And you're like, you know that I can't. Like, you know that I can't. And if you go out to restaurants, yeah, you have to like look at their menu. But even then I didn't want to look at their menu because I couldn't control the amount of oil that they were putting inside a pan when they would cook my chicken breast. And I'd be like, well, they're not going to fucking be careful and measure it out. So I would just bring all my food in bags and rip it out at restaurants. People would think I'm so weird, but all good. Tastes like shit. But yeah, so that's another thing. Like you can't have a life. You don't have a life. And if you want to give it 100%, like, and you essentially, I guess, have to. Well, that was my mentality to it. Like you give up so much and it takes up so much of your life that if like do all or nothing, what the fuck you going to half-ass it for? It's painful enough. Like it's quite painful. So just do it properly in the sense of like, yeah, having to give up everything. You can't drink. You can't enjoy the things you like. You're exhausted all the time, so you do need to sleep. You need 8 hours of recovery for your muscles to grow, you know? And yeah, obviously it's not hard with your friendship group, but they miss you and you see them having fun, and then you could not win as well. Like in a competition, one person wins. So that's why it needs to be like a personal fate as well. Like if I don't win, that's okay. I remember when I first went, I said to my coach, I'm only doing it if I win. And she's like, I can't promise you that. And she said the same as I said before. She was like, you could be the very best, but there could be someone who doesn't like your like outfit color or the way that you posed, or they're sitting on a different angle and the judge may mark you down. So even if you are technically the best, there's a high chance that you don't win. So you can't say you're only going to do it to win, because in a whole competition, only one person gets to win. And you do not want to go through all of this to be sad that you didn't win when there was a high probability that you weren't going to ever win. You know? So, yes, that is a negative. So that's why I wouldn't encourage a fitness comp, but people just need to be like aware that this shit can affect you negatively and your body negatively, and it's not necessarily healthy. But if you choose to do it, you could just don't do what I did, and just don't be too harsh on yourself, or at least just set up like fun ways to do exercise or group ways to do exercise, or see your friends in other way. You don't have to lock yourself away from the world and just hate everything like I did. So now I'm going to go into some calculators, just some really simple calculators. So as I said before, the fitness industry is absolutely fantastic at just confusing the living fuck out of you for no reason but to take your money. There'll be people who are like, oh, you only do it this way, or it's only with this diet, and it's only with this. Like, that's not really true. Different things work for different people. And you just have to play around with it. Like, you just have to see how you feel in yourself as well. Even with exercises and food, your coach can only say so much as well, but they don't know you and they don't know your body. Like, there's certain foods that if I eat, my stomach will hurt and I'll be in pain, but they're considered clean and lean foods, but no one can tell me that. I'm the one experiencing it. Yeah. Or there's some foods that I know that I'll eat and it will just cleanse me forever, and I'll have radiant skin and feel fantastic and have energy. So it really just depends on you. So there's stuff to play around, but there's not one diet that works for everyone. There's not everything that works for everyone, like keto or this, or you have to do this or this fad bullshit. It just is different. So before I go on the calculators, also speaking about fad bullshit, a lot of the diets that people will give you, which works as initially, are just very low calorie diets. Like there's a certain amount of calories you need to survive, which I'll go into, and they're just below that or just below what you've been doing for a very long period of time. So when you just start these diets to like do this 3-week program of having like juice and a celery stick a day, like no shit, you're going to lose weight because you've dropped your calories from like probably near 3,000 because you're binging and eating to fucking 700, and you're obviously going to lose weight. But the thing with that is it's not sustainable, and it will come back on as soon as you start eating normal again, and it will be worse, and you can't keep weight off that way. So that's why people are like, oh, I jumped on this fad diet, or it's like the things you see, like can't keep the weight off, but you could get down. Like a lot of people can get the weight off. That's easy. I could stop eating for the next 5 days and fucking, I could lose some weight doing that, but that's not ideal, and I wouldn't be able to keep it off, nor is a 0-calorie, no food, air diet sustainable for my whole entire existence. So you have to understand scientifically what you need for your body and how to play around with that. Not just do these fad diets that people charge you for and you'd be like, oh my God, she is the answer. She's the one who gave me the diet that made me lose weight. And then the second you go back to normal eating, you put back on weight, you're like, oh, the only way I can get this weight off is if I go back to that diet. Because that's how, isn't it yo-yo dieting? Is that what people say? But yeah, that's all people do. They find something that some magazine or Instagram told them would be the way they lose weight. And they do that. They're fuck yeah, the miracle is here. And then they go back to normal eating because they have to, otherwise they'll die. And then they're like, oh my God, I've put on weight again, maybe even more than before. And then they go, okay, I've got to go back to that miracle diet. Wow, I did it again. Oh, fuck, I'm big again, and that's just the cycle. Also, you have to lose weight slowly because otherwise you just lose your muscle. Your body's job is to keep you alive. Your body's job is not to help you build muscle. So you have to do it very smartly. And it will eat your muscle first. Like, literally when I go to lean down, I don't have a big butt anyway, but I would just lose my butt instantly, right? So I have to do it so slowly and so carefully and try and do some exercises to try and minimize that loss. Your body doesn't want to keep muscle. And when it's starving, which it is, it will eat it. It will eat it. Again, I'm not a licensed professional. This is me just talking shit based on my experience. So I'm just going to talk about 2 calculators, really, otherwise it'll get confusing. And that the first is the basal metabolic rate, which is basically if you were to sit down all day, it is what your body would need to survive. Okay, so from Google it just says the basal metabolic rate is the number of calories required to keep your body functioning at rest. BMR is also known as your body's metabolism. Therefore, any increase to your metabolic weight, such as exercise, will increase your BMR. So just focusing on that, your basal metabolic rate is just how many calories, what you'd need to eat to keep your human alive if you were just sitting down in a room and doing fucking nothing with your life at all and not even moving to get up to the toilet. No, maybe a little bit, but you know what I mean? Just to stay even. So that is the base, but that's not really even the calculator that you need to use because who sits on a floor for their whole entire existence? Nobody. So what you need to go to on now is a calorie calculator. They're all different. They vary a little bit, but they're vastly similar. So I literally just use the one on bodybuilding.com. If you're getting into bodybuilding and fitness, bodybuilding.com is absolutely fantastic. So disregarding kind of now the basal metabolic rate, because absolutely no one really lives a life where they just sit down and do nothing. We now go to a calorie calculator, or TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure, to suss the amount of calories that you actually do burn a day based on your life. So again, that is a TDEE calculator. So of course, you just don't sit down all the time, so your basal metabolic kind of goes out the window. So this now takes in consideration if you train 5 times a week, if you have a job where you have to walk for the train for 20 minutes a day, or if you just sit down at your desk, or if you play soccer for 2 hours every week, So this takes into consideration your total daily energy expenditure, what you're actually putting out based on your lifestyle. So it's not just stock standard, it's being realistic about, you're not basal, we can't just say everyone's this person could have the same basal metabolic rate, but this person fucking works out 5 times a week and this person sits at a desk. Okay, cool, so they're going to have different rates. So then that is, I guess, your baseline and your maintenance. So then you go into a calorie calculator, and bodybuilding.com is where I just use mine. You literally just type in calorie calculator. Says calculate how many calories you should eat, and then you put in your goal, and so that it will take your maintenance one that we just talked about, and so that's what you would burn given your daily life. And then based on your goals, it manipulates the calories for that. So it will ask you your age, your sex, your height, your weight, and your activity levels. And then it will ask for your goal. And then it will change the calories based on your goal. So yeah, I'm pretty sure my base is always 1,750. And then so it will add about 150 onto that if I'm in weight gain, and then take about 100 from that if I'm to lose weight. So the reason why I'm telling you this, the calorie calculator, because so many people will just get so frustrated and so pissed off. They're like, oh, I'm eating all the right stuff. I'm walking 4 times a week and I'm training 2 times a week and I haven't seen any change. But this is literally science. This is down to the T of the number. And think about my maintenance and my fucking weight gain is 200 calories difference. That's really not much to play with. And that could be like, I don't know, a piece of bread with some peanut butter. How many of you have a little bit more than a piece of bread with peanut butter just like as a snack here or there? So you're like, oh, I'm eating so healthy, I'm so frustrated, I'm not losing weight, but you've accidentally just picked up like another nearly 1,000 calories just by snacking throughout the day. And that's when you get frustrated, and then that's when you go to the yo-yo diets, and that's when you just like, oh, everything's bullshit, the fitness world, it's not for me, I'm just big bone, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's really, the science has very small room to move when you actually look at it. And the only time when you're really going to start seeing results is when you start counting it and tracking it, or at least once you've learned that understanding. Because a lot of the time there's a lot more calories in stuff than you think it is. And a lot of healthy things like nut bars and shit like this really is not that healthy at all. Isn't really that healthy. It's just got some health organic tick on it, and it's just full of sugar. And then if you actually look at the calories in it, it's just blown your food budget out of proportion if you're looking to lose weight. So using a tracking app such as MyFitnessPal until you understand how many calories are in the food that you eat is very, very like smart in my opinion. So yeah, so looking at your calorie calculator, how many calories you need, and then focusing on a food plan around that. I won't go too in depth for that because macros and all that stuff is another world, and I'm not as educated on that, so I'm not going to talk about something I don't know. But say if it's 1,800, you could literally go onto Google and type 1,800 calorie diet, and there will be like 50, and you can pick one, and if you don't like some stuff, you can switch it. What is that ingredient? 500 grams of chicken. Wait, that's a big amount. It won't be that much. 120 grams of chicken. Okay, cool. Don't like chicken. Let's put 120 grams of turkey. Oh, the calories are different. All right, let's play around with it and try and make sure the calories are the same as what the chicken would have been. Like, it's kind of not that hard. It just takes some time for you to sit down and figure it out, or just copy the whole entire thing. So yeah, so that's why it's super important for you to know your maintenance and just to know your rough target, because if not, you'll probably be overeating without even knowing it, okay? This is a really random thing, but I spoke to someone and they didn't know that their coffee would have added calories. This lady was having 6 coffees a day with full cream milk and 2 sugars, and she asked me why she was putting on weight when she was only drinking, and she had like toast or something for dinner because she was trying to lose weight. And I was like, do you understand how many calories are in that cup of coffee? And she's like, no, I just thought because it was liquid. I'm like, yeah. Well, a lot of people think that. You're literally blowing your whole days out just by having the milk in there. Like, and it's just bizarre. So make sure you aren't drinking your calories as well. Be really, really mindful of that. And also exercise. Make sure that when you're exercising properly. Otherwise, you're going to not see results either. So people who go to the gym and and again, you have to start everywhere. So I'm not like putting anyone down or whatever. But when you see people say on the bike and on their phones and like they're not even breaking a sweat to the very, very, very slightest, and then they're like, oh, I've put on so much weight, I'm not losing it, I go to the gym every day. It's like, you're not really doing anything. Like, you'd probably get more out of it if you were just twitching your foot at your desk all day, So make sure when you're training, you're actually training properly. Your fat burning heart rate, this is another little calculator. To determine your maximum heart rate, subtract your age from 220. Okay? To enter the fat burning zone, you want your heart rate to be 70% of that. Yeah? So you can Google this, just say fat burning heart rate. And if you have a watch or anything, So yeah, determine your max heart rate, subtract your age from 220, and then you want your fat burning to be 70% of that. So when you're doing cardio and shit, if you're trying to burn fat, you need to be working quite vigorously into that. Wear a watch, see what that actually means. You'll probably find that you're kind of not doing as intensely. I find that when I'm doing weightlifting and heavy weightlifting, it gets to that like way easier and quicker than when I am actually doing like cardio. And this can be my ending thing as well. Don't be scared of putting on muscle, especially as a girl. A lot of girls are like, oh, I can't put on muscle, I can't, blah, blah, blah. I'll look too bulky. But do you know how fucking hard? Do you know how hard it is to put on muscle? I actively tried for years and you can only grow the tiniest of tiniest. And you got girls who go in the gym for the first time and be like, I'm too scared to look bulky. But you won't. You won't. And the people you see taking steroids, it's very hard. Like I, for years, actively chose to cater my calories to a single T, drinking water properly, doing everything. And even then it was so fucking hard to put on muscle. So don't think that you're just going to go to the gym and pick up a couple weights and then you're just going to become the Hulk. Like don't be scared of that because the chances of that happening are zero. It's a very deliberate thing to build muscle and a very long thing over time. Okay? So finishing off, just the type of foods to eat, obviously just clean, nice, whole foods. Chicken breast, turkey breast, fillet steak, whole foods, rice, fish, vegetarian alternatives. Just clean food. Clean food that would go off if you left it out and not packaged bullshit too much of the time. And drink water. At least 2 liters of water a day, which is quite hard in the beginning, but after you do start doing it, you're like, wow, how did I not? But it's so good for your skin and it's so good for your brain. But yeah, so I think I will finish there. And I just want to say thank you for listening. This is a really random podcast. I just wanted to do a fitness podcast, I guess, about my competing history, but more so because I just think the fitness industry is inundated with bullshit. And it's honestly really not that hard to lose weight. I take that back. It's not that complex to lose weight. It's hard work. It's a lot of mental work. You have to stick to what you're doing and you have to do shit properly to science. So it's hard in that way, but it's not, oh my God, fucking all this maths figures and you only have to listen to one person who's going to charge you $600 for a program, blah, 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 you know? And if you need a coach, get one. I'm back with my coach now. I'm back with Zia because I know that I need it. And I know even though I can train myself, I won't. And even though people say, but you can, I won't. And I've proven to myself in 2018, 19, 20 that I didn't. So I'm going to save time and get a coach. Yeah, so ask for help if you need it. So yeah, thank you all for listening to my random fitness podcast. And I will see y'all next week for the most interesting interview I am yet to do, which is interview with a sex worker. So I have somebody who works in a brothel and she is a fucking sweetheart and one of the most educated people I've had to talk to, and we're going to listen to her experiences. So I hope to see y'all there. Mwah. Have a good day. Bye-bye.